Thanks so much for joining me. I'm going to give you 20 quick observations from yesterday's debacle in Philadelphia. We're heartbroken, 49ers fans, because the 49ers lost in horrendous fashion to the Philadelphia Eagles. And what a horrible crowd to lose to, right? That's where I'm wearing my Astros World Series champions t-shirt, just because I want to stick it to Philly fans, because they were jerks to 49er fans. I was listening to 95.7 The Game today to the morning crew there, and they were talking about how horrible they were treated and how they were spit on and had things thrown at them. So that Philly crowd, man, that's just a different bunch. And so I really hope that the Eagles lose, because I don't want Philadelphia to celebrate anything beyond what they've already done. So, but I want to get into this because this isn't about the Philadelphia crowd. This is about the 49ers. So going into this game, I outlined 3 things that the 49ers had to do in order to win. First, don't turn the ball over. They did that twice. Second, keep Jalen Hurts from beating you on the ground. They did that. They did a good job keeping him in check. And the third thing was run the ball. And they really didn't have a chance to do that because they didn't have a quarterback who could throw the ball. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. But the problem is, because they couldn't throw the ball, Philly they were all over the line of scrimmage, just dominating, 8 men in the box, and maybe even more at times. And so they were totally playing the run. And so it was impossible for the 49ers to run the ball. And so because of that, I think that they didn't do 2 of the 3 things the way that they should have done. So that really hurts. And so I want to get into these 20 observations. And when I do these observations from the games, it's real simple. It's just things that jumped out to me, things that I wrote down during the game and or right after the game. So there's no depth to them. I'm not going to be breaking down plays and that kind of thing for you today. I'm just giving you what jumped out to me. So let's talk about that. First thing that I wrote down was that the 49ers kickoff team makes me nervous. And I don't know, they just, especially later in the season, they seem to be giving up some really big kickoff returns. And they started the game off by giving the Eagles decent field position, as opposed to if they would have kicked the ball into the end zone and the Eagles had to down it. So that was the first thing that I saw. Also, the 49ers defense on that first touchdown, I just thought they looked pathetic. Like they didn't even touch that Miles Sanders, the running back for the Eagles. I wrote that if they would have been playing flag football, I still don't know if they would have even touched him. The defense played great throughout the game, but there were a couple of times that wasn't the case. And so not only that one, but later in the game, when I think Miles Sanders scored, the second touchdown, when he scored that one, it was the same thing. Like they opened up and the line opened up and he came through and nobody even touched him. And so just not a good first half for a couple of times there for the team. Also, I thought on that first drive when Devontae Smith dropped that ball and Kyle Shanahan didn't challenge it, that was a huge momentum shift and huge mistake. The Eagles scored 2 plays later. And what I'm thinking is, because Kyle Shanahan said after the game that he didn't have the camera angles like the reviews that we later saw. And really, even if you were watching the Fox broadcast, they didn't show those until after the Eagles actually scored. So early on, right after that play, the Fox didn't put that up, so it was hard to see, hard to know, did he really drop the ball? Did he catch it? But for me, where the mistake comes in is that Devontae Smith made it obvious. He jumped up and started doing the hurry, quickly, huddle up sign. And so the Eagles rushed to the line of scrimmage to hurry up and snap the ball so that the 49ers couldn't review it. That was a mistake. I think that obviously he knew that he didn't catch it, and he was trying to get them to hurry. It was a smart play for Devontae Smith, but a bad decision by Kyle Shanahan. The next thing I wrote was, why was Tyler Kroft responsible for blocking Hassan Reddick? Kroft can't block Reddick. I mean, this is crazy when you think about Hassan Reddick was second in the league in sacks, just right behind Nick Bosa. The guy can get after the quarterback, and yet the 49ers on that play used a tight end, a backup tight end, to block him. I don't know why that was part of the game plan, but Hassan Reddick can't block, Tyler Kroft can't block Hassan Reddick. The next thing I wrote down was, neither can George Kittle, evidently, because he missed Reddick altogether on another play. Next, between turnovers, injuries, and a failure to use one of your challenges, this was just a horrendous start for the 49ers. That's what I wrote in the first quarter. But as you know, it got worse. The next thing was that I wrote down that this was a strange first quarter. And it really was. Matt Barrows tweeted on Twitter, this is what he wrote. 49ers first quarter, Brock Purdy fumble, Brock Purdy injured, Fred Warner injured but came back, Nick Bosa injured and might be hindered. I mean, that happened. Bosa was on the sideline. That happened on a special teams play. Punt hits camera wire. That was crazy. That actually benefited the 49ers. And then he wrote, only down 7-0. And so that was kind of the craziness of that first quarter. And he didn't even mention that Shanahan didn't challenge a dropped pass. And so all of that craziness, and yet they were only down 7-0. Here's the next thing I wrote. Josh Johnson is not a good quarterback, by the way. So once Brock Purdy got hurt and Josh Johnson came in, he quickly showed why he's been on 15 different teams. He's not any good. And I don't want to pile on the guy because he was doing his best, but man, once he came in, I really thought, okay, this is not going to go well. And so even after Christian McCaffrey scored, and then it was tied, I still was not real optimistic. So let's see. The next thing I wrote was, punt returns in playoff games terrify me. Thanks, Kyle Williams. And just every time the 49ers are back to receive a punt, I feel anxious. I feel like I'm going to throw up because Kyle Williams just ruined punt returns for me. Thankfully, Ray McLeod didn't fumble this game. He did last week against the Cowboys, but this time he didn't. So glad for that. The next thing I wrote was, Christian McCaffrey, unreal. He hurdled one guy, bounced off another, and broke a few other tackles on that touchdown run. Wow. I mean, that guy, what a great trade. And so for all those that were saying this is a wasted pick, why did they do this? You know what? He's still going to be with the 49ers for a couple of more years. So this was a great trade. No second round pick is going to be better than Christian McCaffrey. So this was a great pick. Matt Barrows tweeted, Christian McCaffrey broke 4 tackles on that touchdown run. Not quite as epic as Marshawn Lynch's famous playoff rumble, but don't tell that to the 49ers sideline. It erupted after CMC went into the end zone. And that was just a great play by McCaffrey. The next thing I wrote was, this came right after that, when the Eagles got the ball back. That 14-play touchdown drive by the Eagles to answer the 49ers touchdown was huge. It gave the momentum and the lead back to Philly. This was a real downer because the 49ers come back. They tie the game at 7-7. Great play by McCaffrey, as I said. And then right after that, the Eagles drove down the field. And there were some big penalties by the 49ers that kept the drive alive. And so that was just a bad momentum shift for the 49ers. Here's the next thing. The running back wasn't touched either on the first 2 Philly touchdowns. I mentioned that already. So when Miles Sanders scored that second touchdown, again, not even touched, and that was frustrating. The next thing, the two first half turnovers, enough said. Remember, I said in the beginning that if they were going to win this game, they had to make sure not to turn the ball over. They turned it over twice in the first half. Here's the next one. The 49ers seem cursed at the quarterback position. Is this the penalty for having back-to-back Hall of Famers? I mean, think about that. Joe Montana to Steve Young. It's the only time in NFL history that a Hall of Fame quarterback has replaced another. Now, when Aaron Rodgers goes into the Hall of Fame, that'll be the second time. But the 49ers, Montana and Young, that's the only time that that's ever happened. So here's the thing. The 49ers fans were really spoiled. And not only that, but you went from Montana to Young, then to Jeff Garcia, who played in, 3 or 4 Pro Bowls. So he wasn't just some slob. I mean, he was pretty decent himself. And so you take that heritage and that history of great quarterback play, and now it's like the 49ers are cursed. I mean, you go from all these years of bad quarterback play to Jimmy Garoppolo, who can't stay healthy, to Trey Lance, who can't stay healthy, back to Jimmy Garoppolo, who can't stay healthy, and then Brock Purdy, he goes out, and then the fourth string quarterback goes out. It's like the 49ers are cursed. So next thing I wrote down was not a great game by the offensive line, especially the interior. John Chapman tweeted, Mike McGlinchey literally ran past a defender and let him hit Debo. And then he retweeted, quote tweeted that, saying Jake Brendel does the same thing on the next play. So, yeah, Mike McGlinchey is the right tackle. He may not be the right tackle for the 49ers again because he's a free agent, so we'll see how that goes. But Jake Brendel, the center, he didn't have a good game. I don't know that any of the guards had that great of a game. Now, Philadelphia has a really good defensive line, and so we got to give them a little bit of slack for that. But man, what a bad game for the offensive line. No quarterback had a chance. Let's see what's next here. Charvarius Ward had a great game. Those 2 deep pass breakups were big time. Like, he had some great games. And then not only that, but Diamador Lenore held his own. He played really well. Every time they showed him, he's right with his man. Let's see. The story of this game can be told by 3 things: quarterback injuries, turnovers, and 11 penalties for 81 yards. 11 stinking penalties. Man. And it felt like they were all on defense. I mean, the team just played sloppy. And I don't know if it's because Brock Purdy went down and everybody else thought, we really have to step our game up. And so maybe they were pressing too hard or what that was. But man, it got rough after that. The next thing I wrote down is the roughing the punter penalty stole my soul. That's when I knew it was over. In fact, I thought that this was a bad call, actually. I thought that Jordan Mason, if you go back and look at that, it looked like Jordan Mason was pushed into the punter. And so I know that Mike Pereira came on and said it's a good call, and he's a 49ers fan, and everybody knows that. But, man, come on. I did not agree with Mike Pereira, and I didn't agree with the call on the field. That, to me, it just looked like Mason was pushed right into the punter. And so for me, that was just gave the Eagles a first down. It was just a huge blow. And that was kind of the point that I was like, you know what? Today is not our day. This is just not going to go well, no matter what. Next thing I wrote was, I'm not sure why Purdy was in there if he couldn't throw. I realized there wasn't really anything else to do but maybe use McCaffrey and the Wildcat. It probably wouldn't have worked, but you never know. At least it would have been 11 on 11 instead of 10 on 11. So, yeah, that was the case, is that I knew the first time that Brock Purdy came in, first off on the sideline, you see him saying to, I don't remember who he was talking to, maybe Shanahan. I saw him say, I can't throw. And then there was a time where one of the doctors or medical people was asking him, can you grip the ball? And he was shaking his head no. And so when he came back, once Josh Johnson went down and Purdy came back into the game, I thought this is going to be really critical. Let's see how Shanahan calls. And they were, I think, 2 runs and then just a little real short screen pass, I think to McCaffrey or something like that. So you could tell from that first series when Purdy came back in that he couldn't throw the ball. There was nothing that he could do. So that was a big thing. Matt Barrows tweeted Brock Purdy was 2 for 2 for 19 yards before sustaining an injury to his right elbow. He was 2 for 2 for 4 yards after his injury when he was forced back in when Josh Johnson went down with a concussion. So, yeah, 2 for 2 for 4 yards. The guy couldn't throw. So I don't know why he was in there. Plus, I was also concerned, could he make his injury worse? And probably not, especially since they really weren't throwing the ball. But I didn't really understand why he was in there. Let's see, the last thing that I wrote, the last note on here, was why was Jimmy Garoppolo smiling on the sideline? That bugged me, man. I did not like the fact that guys are hurting. I mean, they're down, they're frustrated. I mean, we saw how things just went crazy at the end when Trent Williams is throwing people around. And so that your teammates are hurting. And yet you're on the sideline joking. I'm probably making more out of that than I should, but that really bugged me. I don't know if that bugged you, then post something in the comment section. Let me know if that bugged you or if I'm just overreacting to it. But that was bothersome to me. And this wasn't part of my observations, but it also bugged me how after the game in the locker room, what Jimmy Ward was saying, how he was talking about, he's enjoyed his time in San Francisco and then actually said something to the effect of these guys have a great team here, so they're going to be fine. So it's like he's already decided he's leaving. And I guess I was disappointed by that because for one thing, I'd like to see Jimmy Ward come back. But the other thing is that, again, your teammates are hurting and you're saying they're going to be fine. They have a good team instead of we're going to be fine. We're going to get through this together. But maybe I'm making too much out of that as well. So those are my observations. You can let me know what you think about them. You can read what I wrote on 49erswebzone.com. Just go to the staff page and then find my name and my picture on there, and then you can read anything that I write. But I appreciate you taking the time for this. Make sure you subscribe to our channel. I'm going to have some interviews, bringing in some others. So brand new channel here. And so it's going to take me a little time to really get into this, but I appreciate you taking the time to watch.